Welcome to the deep dive. You know, as parents, when we set our kids off to school, there's this fundamental trust, right?
Absolutely. Trust that they're safe, that the people there are prepared.
Exactly. We see the security guards, we hear about these programs. But tonight, we're asking, well, is it enough? Is the appearance of safety the same as actual safety?
That's really the core question we're digging into. It's not about doubting intentions. I mean, everyone wants kids safe. But it's about looking hard at how effective these measures are, especially, for the worst case scenario, an active shooter.
So we're focusing on the preparedness of school security guards, guardians, people armed on campus.
Precisely. We'll look at the training they get, what's actually expected of them if something horrific happens, and some serious concerns raised by, tactical training experts.
And our guide for this is Herfel Torres, a firearms instructor and tactical educator.
That's right, a nationally certified instructor. His insights form the basis of this deep dive, helping us see if we've got a real safety net or maybe just something that looks like one.
Okay, so let's start with that gap you mentioned, perception versus reality. The usual response to school violence is more visible security.
Yeah, you often see more guards, maybe off-duty police officers hired, and then there are things like the Guardian programs.
Like in Florida, where school staff can be armed.
Exactly. Florida is a key example. And look, seeing more adults who seem to be in charge, maybe armed, it can feel reassuring on the surface.
It makes sense psychologically.
It does. But the critical point from Torres is that just having more bodies there doesn't automatically equal better protection. It all comes down to the training.
The quality and the type of training they actually receive.
Yes. And that's where this potentially dangerous disconnect can happen. The feeling of safety might not match the reality of their readiness.
All right, let's break down that training then. What about the standard armed security guard license, like the Florida Class G? What does that actually involve?
Okay, so the Class G involves a live fire qualification. You need to pass, obviously.
And the passing score?
It's 70%, so 168 points out of 240.
70%. Okay.
Okay.
That sounds okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, that's the thing. On the surface, yeah. But Torres points out, hitting that minimum score doesn't mean you're competent under pressure.
How so?
You can pass that test without hitting the vital zones consistently. The areas you'd actually need to hit to stop a threat.
Seriously.
And crucially, there's often no real time pressure. You can take your time lining up shots.
Wait, so someone could carefully aim, miss the important spots, still get 70%, and be cleared to carry a gun in a school?
That's the unsettling takeaway, yes. And it gets worse.
Wow.
The standard Class G qualification, it usually doesn't involve shooting while moving or shooting under any kind of simulated stress.
No stress drills. No movement.
Nope. No tactical decision-making exercises either. It's typically just standing still, shooting at a stationary target in a controlled setting.
It sounds nothing like what an actual active shooter event would be.
Exactly. It's miles away from the chaos, the noise, the sheer panic of a real incident.
Okay, so that's the basic armed guard license. What about the Guardian programs? The school staff members who volunteer to be armed?
The training hours there can be, surprisingly low. Torres mentions cases around, say, 132 hours total.
132 hours. How does that compare to other professions?
It's significantly less time than what's required for, getting a barber's license or becoming a cosmetologist in many places.
Wow. That comparison is stark.
It really is. And the big concern isn't just the total hours, but how they're used. A large chunk is often classroom learning.
Okay. Theory is important, but...
Right, but there's comparatively little live fire practice and even less training that actually simulates the intense stress of confronting a real threat.
You'd think that for someone potentially facing a shooter, the practical high-stress stuff would be the absolute priority.
You would hope so. But there's another layer here that's deeply concerning, according to Torres.
What's that?
The pressure sometimes put on the instructors conducting these trainings.
Pressure.
He shares stories, first-hand accounts of instructors being basically told, sometimes subtly, sometimes not so subtly, not to fail people.
Not to fail them. Why?
It often comes down to money and jobs. School boards have contracts with training providers. Failing too many people might look bad, might jeopardize the contract, or the instructor's own job security could be on the line.
So there's a risk that the system itself pushes for lower standards just to pass people through.
That's the troubling implication, yes. Torres talks about seeing people pass who he knew professionally weren't ready, but he also knew that being the instructor who failed too many people could mean he wouldn't be asked back.
That sounds like a system potentially designed to fail, in a way. prioritizing completion over actual competence.
It creates a really flawed dynamic where the goal might shift from, is this person truly prepared, to, did this person complete the required hours?
This paints a really worrying picture of the training. How does this basic level stack up against what we know about performance in actual high-stress, violent encounters?
Yeah, this is where the contrast becomes really sharp. Torres brings up some sobering data.
Like what?
Even well-trained police officers, people with academy training, regular practice, actual street experience, see their shooting accuracy plummet under the extreme stress of a real gunfight.
How much does it drop?
Down to maybe 20 to 30% hit rates, sometimes even lower.
20 to 30%. For trained police, that's incredibly low.
It is, and it highlights the immense impact of stress on performance.
So the critical question then is, if experienced officers struggle that much, what can we realistically expect from a school guard or a guardian who has maybe only passed that 70% static range test?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's terrifying. Many of these individuals may have never fired their weapon under genuine duress, ever.
They lack the experience of that adrenaline dump, the chaos.
Exactly. They likely haven't trained on hitting moving targets, which is crucial, or how to properly use cover basic survival skills in a firefight.
And identifying the threat quickly and accurately.
That's another huge concern. Without realistic training and target identification under pressure, the risk of hesitation is high. Freezing up.
Or worse.
Or worse, misidentifying someone, accidentally shooting an innocent student or another staff member in the confusion. It's a nightmare scenario.
And the drills they do practice, you said, are often unrealistic.
Completely. Static line, close distance, stable stance, good lighting. It's controlled. Predictable.
Nothing like a chaotic hallway.
Nothing. It doesn't include the noise, the screaming, the unpredictable movement, the sheer sensory overload that defines these events. It's like training for a hurricane by standing in a light drizzle.
It seems obvious that experts like Herfel Torres see these massive gaps. He mentioned a network of professionals, people who train like elite units.
Yeah, tactical educators who train military special forces, SWAT teams, people operating at the highest levels. They understand what real-world stress does and how to train for it.
So why isn't there kind of training the advanced scenario-based stuff being used in schools?
This is where it gets incredibly frustrating. These experts, Torres included, have developed training programs that do incorporate realism. Force-on-force drills using non-lethal ammo, complex scenarios, de-escalation, shoot-don't-shoot decisions.
The kind of training that actually seems relevant.
Exactly the kind of training needed. But these more rigorous and likely more expensive programs often get shut out of school contracts.
Why? What are the roadblocks?
Torres points to a few things. One big one is fear of liability for the school boards.
How so?
If they bring in advanced trainers who then say, hey, your current people aren't meeting a realistic standard, that could open the school up to lawsuits if something happens later. It's admitting a weakness.
So avoiding liability trumps ensuring better training.
It can seem that way. Then there are the security agencies themselves. More intense training costs more time, more resources, maybe specialized instructors. That cuts into their profit margins.
So a financial disincentive.
Right. And you also have sometimes resistance from unions or just general bureaucratic inertia. Sticking with the status quo is often easier than admitting flaws and making big changes.
It sounds like a combination of fear, finances, and just reluctance to change the system, even if it's flawed.
Sadly, yes. And Torres has seen the pushback personally. Instructors who try to hold a higher standard, who fail people who aren't ready.
What happens to them?
They might be told, thanks, but we won't need you next time, or face veiled threats about their contracts, sometimes even direct pressure to change scores to pass someone who failed.
Pressure to falsify results. That's deeply unethical.
It's incredibly alarming. It suggests the system, in some cases, actively works against ensuring competence.
Okay, let's paint the picture then. What are the potential consequences in a real event, given this level of potentially inadequate training?
Think about it. An active shooter in a school hallway, gunfire echoing, kids screaming, alarms blaring, pure chaos.
Sensory overload, high stakes.
Immense pressure. Now picture someone trying to respond who has maybe only done that static range qualification. Minimal practice, drawing their weapon under stress, maybe never done it.
They might freeze.
Hesitation is a huge risk. And in those situations, seconds count. Fumbling with their firearm, trying to remember basic steps under extreme duress.
It's not like the calm, controlled range environment.
Not even close. And then there's the catastrophic risk of misidentification. in the panic, under pressure, not having trained realistically for threat assessment, the chance of shooting the wrong person goes way up.
A student running away, another staff member trying to help.
Exactly. Torres is clear. These aren't just theoretical risks. Tragic mistakes have happened. And without change, they're likely to happen again.
And we've seen specific incidents that seem to confirm these worries, right? Real-world examples.
Yes, unfortunately. Torres brings up documented cases, guardians leaving firearms unattended where students could potentially access them.
Unbelievable.
Accidental discharges on school property, people failing basic safety checks with their weapons. These aren't hypotheticals, they're reported events.
You mentioned one specific case in Florida.
Yeah, a particularly disturbing one where a guardian accidentally fired their weapon inside a teacher planning room. Thankfully, no one was physically hurt, but
What was the consequence? Surely they were removed.
the response was retraining. Just retraining, then back on duty, which sends a really concerning message about accountability for potentially lethal mistakes.
Retraining, not removal. That seems insufficient.
It suggests a reluctance to take firm action, perhaps for some of the reasons we've discussed: liability, staffing, maybe optics.
And what about the attitude from some security companies themselves? You mentioned a quote.
Right. Torres shared a quote from a security contractor that's just chilling. Basically, we don't need them to be experts, just a deterrent.
Just a deterrent. That's the goal.
Apparently, for some. But deterrence only works until it doesn't. When violence actually erupts, you don't need a deterrent anymore. You need a competent protector.
A visual deterrent means nothing when shots are actually being fired.
Exactly. And an undertrained person trying to act under fire could even make things worse. There's a vast difference between just having a gun and being truly prepared to use it effectively and safely under extreme pressure.
Okay, this is all deeply concerning. So for listeners, for parents, community members, what can actually be done? Is there a way to push for change?
Torres is very clear on this. Yes. Parents and community members have real power here, but they need to be informed and engaged.
What should they be doing?
He recommends asking very specific, tough questions of their local school boards. Don't just accept vague assurances about security.
Like what kind of questions?
Demand details. What exactly does the training curriculum cover for guards and guardians? Who provides the training? Critically, are they independent or tied to the security contractor?
Independence of the trainer seems key.
Absolutely. Does the training include realistic, scenario-based drills, force on force? What are the specifics of the firearms qualification? What's the standard? How often do they have to re-qualify?
Not just once, but ongoing.
Yes. And are there any independent third-party audits of the training programs? Someone from the outside checking that the standards are actually being met effectively.
Those are concrete questions people can take to their school board meetings. What about bigger picture changes? Legislation.
Torres strongly advocates for that too, supporting laws that mandate much higher live fire standards, maybe even 100% pass-fail on qualification shoots.
So no sliding by with 70%.
Right, ensuring a baseline level of actual marksmanship. Also, pushing for more frequent requalification, maybe quarterly, because shooting skills are perishable.
You lose them if you don't practice.
Exactly. Mandating realistic, scenario-based training needs to be part of the law, not optional. And creating transparency around instructor evaluations.
Holding the trainers accountable too.
Yes. And finally, really pushing for schools to use independent training providers known for high standards, not just whoever is cheapest or easiest.
It really boils down to demanding real capability, not just the appearance of it.
That's the bottom line. Complacency here is dangerous. A truly well-trained person can be a lifesaver, but an undertrained person may be overconfident because they passed a minimal test.
Could be liability.
A huge liability, potentially making a horrific situation even worse. Our kids, everyone's kids, deserve more than just feeling safe. They deserve actually effective protection. And that comes from rigorous, realistic training.
So it really leaves us with a challenge for you listening right now. We've laid out the potential gaps, the expert concerns, the real world dangers. The question is, what specific steps will you take? How will you push for ensuring the people protecting kids in your community are truly prepared? That's the deep dive for tonight. Thanks for joining us.